Hey everybody, this is Matt. Today I'm going to show you how to do the finish in AE step of a listening video. So you're going to see something on your timeline that looks like this, and you need to really look at all this information, including the difficulty level, because the listening lessons are separated into 4 different difficulty levels. So we see here, I'm going to pretend like I'm Max today, Vietnamese listening number 5. So if that's the one I wanted to do, I need to find Vietnamese listening number 5 of the advanced lessons. So let me show you where to find all that on the server. So we have Neptune, of course, video team. So you're going to be working from a Premiere project. And maybe you've done this Premiere step before, so you know what that looks like. But in case you haven't, you're going to go into listening in the Premiere projects and then find the language, Vietnamese. And these are all separated into different difficulty levels. So advanced is the one we want. I'll open that up. Okay, so I have Premiere open here. It's a good idea to do this because you're going to be needing to copy and paste some of the clips that are in here. But you're going to do most of your work in After Effects. So let me just open up After Effects. That's a very specific way you're going to be doing this. So please follow this order. All right, first we're going to open a project. And you see we're here in After Effects projects, listening. And to start, you're going to want lesson graphics. And in here, you're going to find all the templates for all the different lessons. So you're going to find the lesson you're working on. As we remember, it's advanced number 5. And open that guy up. This is locked so that you don't change it. Everybody who makes an advanced number 5 lesson is going to pull from this. And you don't want to make any changes. So that's what that message means. Okay, so here we are in this project. What this is a generic lesson. So it is all the graphics, all the timing, everything that's going to happen, but it's just it's timed for the English script basically. So your major task is just going to be to adapt it to the language you're doing. So we're doing Vietnamese, which means we're going to need to adjust the timing, but also add in some subtitles. So let's just take a quick tour through this project and see what we have. It's even a good idea to, if this is the first time you've done this lesson, and by that I mean like the advanced number 5 lesson, you might want to just kind of browse through this and see what it looks like. So I'm going to do that. This first beginning part is always going to be the same. There's no animation except for these little tags which come in and out depending on what part of the audio is showing. But then the actual animation is here. So nothing's happening, nothing's happening. All right, we're showing the projector. We have eliminated a few of the images. We've shown the markers. We're checking that one. So the way that this flow is working is we're listening to the dialogue, and this is just kind of helping the person who's listening out by eliminating things, showing things that are mentioned in the dialogue. For example, I don't know exactly what's being said here because the English audio is not in here, but something along the lines of, they're talking about the projector, and so at that point we're going to show, okay, this is the projector. Only ones that have the projector in are going to be qualified, and so if something doesn't have a projector, it's going to get an X. Let's see if that holds true. So we have brought in the projector here, yes. So by that token, we can eliminate this one, and then documents. Those are also, maybe we're talking about the documents right now, and it seems like, okay, if you have a document, then it's eliminated, and so that leaves this one. This will make a lot more sense when you can put the subtitles in, because then you can kind of tell exactly what's going on. But it's just a good idea to see what the moving parts are, because those are the things that you're going to want to make sure that you animate. Okay, let me skip to the next part. So we need to make this not the generic version. We need to make this the Vietnamese version. So I'm going to import another project, and this is going to be in the language folder, whatever it is. And in each of these languages, there should be one called the listen template. Open that up. I should be careful with my words. I'm not opening it up. I'm importing it into the project. So now I have this folder with everything that's in it. And the important things you want here are these intros and these outros. Now, if you watch the edit audio step, you'll know that the first lesson out of every group of 5 gets the long intro, then the other 4 get the short intro. So if I were doing lesson 1, I would want this intro. I'm doing lesson 5, so I want this short intro. By the same token, if this were lesson 6, 11, 16, 21, any of those numbers which are the first of a group of 5, then you'd want the long intro. So I want the short and the outro, and I'm just going to pull these out here, because otherwise you don't even need to touch what else is in this folder. Just these are the guys you want. The other thing I'll do, I'm going to add just the 3-letter code in front of the main graphics. And now we have basically the starting point that we can start from. So let's save our project. And I'm going to save it into this Vietnamese folder, the same place I grabbed the template from. Just make sure that you're matching all the projects in that folder, including this little _1. That's actually very important for reasons I don't need to get into. So I've got this, I'm all ready to go. The very first step is to start adding subtitles, because it'll make the next step easier. And where do you get those subtitles? Well, you're going to get them not from the database, you're going to get them from Google Docs. And you should have all these projects, all these documents shared with you. And the way you're going to do it, you just search listening, scripts, dash, and I'm in advanced. And this is one of the first groups of 5. So, every unit has 5 lessons. If this were 6 through 10, I'd be in unit 2. But I know I want unit 1 because I'm in number 5. So just search for those scripts. I hope I'm not showing anything sensitive here. Oh, there it is. Okay. So let's look at this document really quick. You should kind of be familiar with how it's set up. This is the base, and it's going to open on here, but you don't need to know it. You don't need to look at it at all. Just go to your language. So this document is very large. It might take a little bit to load. I want Vietnamese. Okay. Here is the lesson, and we are in Vietnamese Advanced, so there should be 5 lessons in here. Okay. And here's lesson 5. So here's what we want. So these 2 columns are going to be where we pull out all the stuff for the subtitles. So let's go over how to do that. So I have these 4 little stand-in graphics here. You can see that they're these guys, target language and English language. So you're going to use this if the language uses the normal alphabet. If you're using Japanese, use this. It's a good stand-in guy. If you're using Korean, use this. We don't have anything right now for Chinese, but when you get to that, we can kind of work it out. I'm sure that there's conventions that we've started using that you should hold to, like fonts and stuff. But for now, we're just going to delete these Korean and Japanese language ones because we're not working on that. And then the very next thing you should do, I think, is import the audio. So back to Premiere. These intro and outros, they're going to be part of a different composition completely. You don't need to worry about importing them into this composition. But I'm going to select everything else. Okay. Copy, I'm hitting Command C on a Mac. And go to After Effects. Notice this little marker, audio begins here. That's important. So I'm just going to go to that marker, which by the way is at 1 second. You should be there. Hit Option Command V. Everything's imported. What that does is, as you can see, makes it so everything starts at that point. And then if I just make this larger, what it's done here is imported. Well, there are some clips which were in stereo. See, like this, like one of these actors.
Đã sẵn sàng cho
So the male actor was in stereo. We don't need these extra clips. They just give us two clips when there is stereo tracks. So you can actually get rid of all of that. And then this is just the whole lesson. So audio begins here. That's great. I'm going to go back down. But I will actually move all this stuff below at the very bottom of the composition. It's just easier for me to work that way. Okay. I guess I spoke too soon. You should, before you do the subtitles, let's just adjust the timing of these tags. So what these are the things that say like, listen to the question, listen to the dialogue, answer the question. And these should correspond with the timing of these parts. So let's look at this. So just to take a very wide view of this, right here is the setup and the question. So we're asking in Vietnamese, so you can't understand it, but we're asking, first we're setting the stage, the person, like they're briefing for a meeting or whatever, what materials are they supposed to bring? And then here's 3-second pause, then we go through the dialogue, okay? And then another 3-second pause here, and then here we're just asking the question again. These are the same clips, okay? Once we do that, we have a 5-second pause, then we go through the whole dialogue again. So the timing of this should happen, so it ends 1 second after the question is asked. All right, so I'm going to go forward 1 second. Okay, and then that's where this part should transition out. If I hit U, which reveals all the keyframes, I see that right now it's ending here. I want it to end here. So I can highlight all these, shift, drag to bring them over, and that's great, but because this layer, it isn't visible at this point, what you're going to see, I'm going to turn this off just to make it simple. You're going to see that it's just going to transition, not even transition, it's just going to cut out. So make sure that this covers the entirety of that keyframe. So yeah, then you'll be able to actually see the transition. Okay, I'm just going to make this wide so I can see everything at one time. And then we mentioned this is a 3-second pause. If we go forward another second, which should be 1 second back from the beginning, hope that makes sense. 1 second, transition out, 1 second, begin this transition. Now I'm going to have this one come in, and here I'm just going to put left bracket, no alter option, just left bracket. That makes this the endpoint. Then you shouldn't have to change any of these keyframes, but you do want this guy to last until the end of the dialogue for the first time. So we mentioned that's here. All right, the last little dialogue clip. We want to go 1 second past that, and that's where we're going to want to end this clip. Okay. And then you can probably guess that we go forward again and start here. And this guy's a little bit different. We have a 5-second pause here, and we want this to finish transitioning out 15 frames before this frame. This layer starts. Was that confusing? Okay, you don't have to remember that. Just remember, go 4-1-5 from the end of this last question, and that's where you're going to want to be. So showing the keyframes with U, option right bracket to make the endpoint there, highlighting these keyframes and bringing it over. That's all you do with the tags. Okay, and then from this point, from the second run through of everything, so here we have the setup and the question again, this is where we want to start doing subtitles. So very first time you go through this, you can have your own method of doing this, but what I like to do is just have the subtitles last the entirety of this layer. Have one subtitle per sound, like audio file, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. So here I might just, this is a pretty handy trick. If you select all the layers in the way, so I'm going to have to keep scrolling past these guys, right? I'm going to click this button, which is the shy. So if that little guy goes behind the hill, you see he's above the hill, he's behind the hill, and you click this button, all those will get out of your way. So I can just deal with the subtitles and the audio files, which they are marking. Okay, so I'm going to have this guy just go from there to the beginning of this frame. And here's where I need to get stuff from the Google Doc. I just noticed that this is a little bit messy. I want to clean up my layers, so I'll drag all this stuff into audio. Okay, so Now we're going to get stuff out of here. And all these things should kind of match. We even have the file name here. This should match whatever you see here. Dialog A, dialog A. Okay, so that should all match there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to treat these like cell by cell. I'm going to first look at this setup, which is this part right here. And I'm going to take the English script, and I'm going to put that in place of the English language stand-in. So I'm just going to select it and then Command V. Okay, and again, this is really long, but I don't care about that right now. I'm just going to put these all in, put all the data in. Okay, Vietnamese, this goes here. All right. Next, we're going to want to duplicate these guys, drag them down, and then this one you want to start at this beginning of this next layer. Okay, and I want to go to the front of this layer, go back one frame, and then cut these guys. Now I want this one, the question. So I want to make sure I'm replacing the English. English is always at the bottom. Vietnamese at top. Okay, and we keep going. All right, what do I have? We have the English, that goes here. Vietnamese here. Now there's one thing I want to talk about here because this is going to trip you up sometimes. And it kind of depends on the translator, but for a lot of languages, you'll have this column filled out, English translation B. Now what is this? Well, we're working from this single script, this single English script. And what are the odds that they're all going to be perfect, that all these things are going to translate into the target language exactly right? Well, it's pretty low actually. So, you know, we might say some phrase like, yep, I've already checked the room. But when you put that into a natural version of the target language, whatever that language might be, when you translate it back to English, you know, it might be that you're saying something a little bit different. So if you don't see anything in the language you're working on, then don't worry about it, but just be aware that every time you should be checking that you don't have anything in this column. So let's look at a few. Yeah, okay, so here's Italian. We see that in English, the version was, a man is reporting about his company's sales performance at a meeting. So the Italian translator made that into Italian as best as she could, and then it said, okay, but we can't retranslate it. We can't show this as the English translation. So we're going to change that to, a man is giving a report about his company's sales trend at a meeting. So for whatever reason, the word for trend was easier to use in Italian than performance. So we're going to use that. So in that case, you want to make sure you're going to ignore this one in case that if that is ever filled out, you're going to use this instead. Okay, but we are working on Vietnamese. Nothing in this column is filled out, and that's why we're just using this. Just be aware of that because you'll get it corrected. People will notice. The person who wrote this translation is going to be the one checking it, so they'll notice if you're not using their thing, and it makes them feel like, you know, you're kind of disregarding the work they're doing. So just watch out for that. All right, where are we? So, like, I'm just gonna finish this up, not make you watch it all. You can kind of get the idea. All right, I'm gonna come back for a second just because I want to show you something that might happen. So here I am working on these subtitles, nearly got them done. I scroll forward and then everything goes away. Everything's just sliding away. So what's going on here? I'm going to unshie all my layers so I see them all. I'm just going to make this full screen. What's happening is this layer called transitions. There's this transitions layer, and if we have the parenting modes switched on, you see that almost all of these layers are one way or another like parented to this transition layer. And what this is it's just a single layer with a single pair of keyframes. These position keyframes at the front of the beginning that will transition the whole thing on or off. So one way you could do it is have every layer that is going to be on at the end, have that just transition off at the same time. But it's a lot easier to just make this one setting. So If this happens, means that for whatever reason, the word you're working on is longer than the English one that the template was built off of, just drag this out of the way, okay? Just make it way longer than it needs to be, and then we'll be sure that, it won't fall away from us. It still is. Well, it hasn't transitioned away, but now the problem here is that we have these layers that are actually ending. You can worry about that. I would just extend the background layers. Like, all you're really doing right now is the subtitles, and you're going to go back through and adjust the timing for all these things anyway. So, don't worry too much about that. Let's see if that solves the problem for the background at least. Yeah. Maybe I'll just also get this bug. That end at the end. Okay. So here we can at least continue working our subtitles. And I'm almost done. All right, so we have the last audio file here, and 1 second after this, that's going to be the complete end of the project. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go +1 second. Okay, so here we want to make sure that the last subtitle goes to this point, and then that the transitions ends at this point. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to you. So we had the last subtitle go up, and then 1 second later we're out. Okay, and then this transition is important because it's going to fit in with the last transition, or sorry, the transition of the shot which comes next. So I'm also going to change my work area, just trim it here. That way we don't have any extra space. And all right, so the subtitles are all done, at least they're roughed in. You're going to look through this and there's going to be some obvious problems, and that's what we're going to fix next. So, for example, this is way too long. I'm not going to do this for all of these, okay? So it's going to take a long time. But the basic thought process you're going to do here, what I do is I make this just a size so that you can just see the subtitles, just see what's important, and then the rest of your space is devoted to the layers. And maybe I'll go back to shy mode so that I just see what's important to me. So what we see here is, there are at least 2 sentences happening in this one. It's one line of dialogue, but lots of sentences. So just as an example, and you do this for every single clip, but I'm going to open up the waveform monitor for this clip, this audio clip. And the way you do that is just hit LL, kind of quick in rapid succession. And let's look at this. All right, so we have, looks like one word, sentence, a short sentence, another short sentence, and another sentence. So you're going to want to divide these up in a way which feels natural and also which will get everything on screen at the same time. So I just look at this, I'm not going to put just that on the screen at once. That's a little excessive, but maybe I'll put these 2 portions, whatever they are. So I'm going to go to the dialogue here, like these are the subtitles. Duplicate this, drag one set below the other. And then I want this top set to end here. I want the bottom set to begin in the frame afterwards. And just so you know, I didn't go set the out point and then just go down and set the in point, because otherwise we would have this overlap. What I did was I set the out point, hit page down, and then I set the in point of this later clip. That way we don't have any sort of thing. So that's what's happening on a close level. I just use the keyboard shortcuts and I don't really look close because I know what's going to happen, but don't be confused there, or else you'll have some overlap. So then this one, so first we need to just figure out which portion of that is should be correspond to this little section. So we have a short word and then a little sentence sort of a thing. That's all we know. I don't know Vietnamese, but that's enough for me to figure this out. So right now we're in dialogue A. If we look at this whole clip, dialogue A. So Look at this. We have these two little ellipses, this okay. So it looks pretty obvious that this is what we're talking about here. So once again, ellipses, ellipses, and then kind of a longer set of stuff. Now let's look at this. So here's the okay, this is the ellipses, this is the ellipses, and then this is the rest. So as I look at this, I know that this part corresponds to up to about that part. So let me just copy that. And that's our new beginning. All right, looks like even with that, it doesn't all quite fit on. So okay, so I'm gonna select everything here, paste, and if you can kind of figure out what the translation is. So all right, so it's I think we're almost ready for presentation tomorrow. Dot, dot, dot. That's going to be where this ends. So let me just find that in here. Delete everything after it. Okay, I think we're almost ready for the presentation tomorrow. All right, and then I'll bring that down to what's necessary. So these are the title safe lines. Some of our stuff will be on TV distributions, so make sure that they fall into here. I'm just noticing with Vietnamese, it's a very long language, so unless we're going to have like crazy short sentences on each frame, we maybe want to just shrink it down as the option there. All right, the next part of the sentence. So we know that it's everything after here. Let's just do this guy. So, and we'll look back down on the timeline, waveform. This is where we want this to end. It's just going to be that little part surrounded by the ellipses. Duplicate this. The top one, we're going to have end, page down to go forward a frame, make this one begin here. And now here we're going to copy that, paste that, And this goes for just a few more things. Just a few more things. Okay, and then the rest. It looks like we're going to have another long one. Like this one didn't fit onto one line, so this certainly won't. Maybe we want to take this division here. So let's figure out what this is. I'm just going to play this section with the period key on my numpad. If you do that, it won't render the video, it'll just play the audio.
Buổi họp sẽ bắt đầu vào đúng 9 giờ. Vậy chị có thể...
All right, so in my excellent Vietnamese knowledge, I'm going to hear kind of a z sound.
Buổi họp sẽ bắt đầu vào đúng 9 giờ.
Z. So now let me look at the dialogue. Well, I would never assume that little word that looks like geo to me is pronounced z, but the comma is the bigger tip off to me. And the good thing is that if you are just off completely, then we have checkers who will make sure that you get the right thing. But do your best. Okay. Of that part. Now let's just look at the English sentence and kind of try to guess from context. So this last portion is divided up by a comma. The meeting will start at 9 sharp, blah, blah, blah. That all has a comma after it, so we're just going to end at 9 sharp. So we start here, end there. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to cut it out, and then I know that that's the last of the English, so I'm pasting that here. All right, and then since this guy ends at that GIO with the slashy thing, let's cut out everything else. Survey, the beginning, and then it's still a little large, so I'll select everything and bring it down. Okay, so that's kind of the process. If you're not talking through it like I am, then it goes a lot faster, but here we have divided these up so from here, we divided these up into bite-sized chunks. Okay, and that's the process you're going to do for making subtitles. Okay, so I'm going to assume you've done all that. You've done this through all of the lines of dialogue. The next thing to do is to adjust the timing. This is almost the final step. Okay, so let me go back to the unshied version. And here we're going to be using these subtitles that you made as helpers for the timing. So the first thing I'll usually do is just figure out what the moving parts are. You can kind of work backwards from this finished project, figure out what are the points that you'll need to adjust. So I'm going to select all of these guys, hit U, that reveals the keyframes. I make this bigger. All right, so everything's happening about here. So let's see. First thing that happens are these projectors coming up. Okay, so at what point do the projectors come up? All right, so we're talking. Okay, the meeting will start at 9 sharp. Okay, could you double check the meeting room today? Yep, I've already checked the room. Okay, great. Did you make sure the projector's working okay? So we're talking about the projector. This is where we want to start mentioning that, like pointing that out visually. So we'll find the part in the dialogue where we're talking about that. And that's here. Okay, so again, you're going to make sure that you have cleaned these up all so that they're all short little clips. So we want to have these pop up right as the person is saying projector. And if you can't tell which word is projector, and I sure can't, just kind of get it roughly in that area. So maybe the middle of the sentence, we want that stuff to pop up. Okay, so now we have these parts. We know that these, look, they're all named projector. So I'm going to select all these keyframes and have them begin at this point. Okay, so the projector's working okay. Next animation that happens. The next animation that happens is that we check off the one that doesn't have anything to do with projector, and then we bring these other guys down. So let's see. The question is, what will the women check? What will the woman check after the conversation ends? So there's something here that says, she had to check the projector. So everything, all the answers that don't say projector are wrong. So let's check this out. Okay, great. Did you make sure the projector's working today? Oh, he's going to do that tomorrow. No, we need to do that today. Okay, so that's the part where the listener should realize, like, oh, okay, so we need a projector. So let's find that part. That should be the very beginning of E, this first little sentence. And since that is a long sentence, then we're probably going to, that's one that we would want to have broken up. For now, I'm just going to show the waveforms. So it's like, no, we've got to get that checked today. So first sentence, that's happening right here. So like, no, we have to check today. So we'll have that animation coming right about here. So here, it's not just moving keyframes. We want to be moving these layers. So this little X thing, for example, where is that? This is it, icon wrong. So we want, what are these commerce icons? Okay, so commerce icons, those are the little light things. Okay. I'm noticing that those are coming in the same time as the wrong, so I'll just select them all. Make sure that we move them all at the same time. Okay. So then where were we? We were about the middle of this sentence. That's where it should happen. Okay. You can drag these over however you want to, so it's like, no, we want to make sure we have to get the check today. We won't have time to deal with it in the morning if there's a problem. Okay, will do. All right, and at some point we are going to reduce these projectors back to their place. So it looks like in the original animation, we reduced them right before we brought up the handouts. So we see here, will do, and did you get copies of the handouts? So on will do, let's bring these down, and will do, that's dialog F. So dialog F, will do is here. And so we're gonna wanna select these guys. And let's just make sure it's ending about here. Will do. And then the following sentence we know is talking about a projector. Okay. So actually timing ended up about right here. So we don't have a document, so we don't bring that forward because it's already been disqualified. So we see that we're going down, bringing that up. And these are copies of those handouts. Okay. So looks like we have another animation coming up. It's making those now. All right, so I'm just kind of inferring from here, like she's making this, and so they don't need to be prepared. And that's why the ones that have the handouts are being checked off. Okay, Miss Maya's making them now. So let's find the line. Miss Maya's making them now. That's the point that we know this is disqualified. H. So right here, we're right on it. Miss Maya's making them now, and then we know, okay, so we don't need those. Let's have the wrong things pop up, and actually it looks like these were timed so that they happen about the same time. No, not quite. I lost my timing. So this is H. Okay, that come in there. This Maya's making them now. Therefore, we don't need them for the meeting tomorrow. Okay. So what's happened here? It's a good idea to always just check what's going on here. All right, that becomes no right as that goes down. All right, any more animations? All right, see this guy dropping out. That shouldn't happen. That's just because this is longer than the English one. So what is this layer? This is this one. So let's make sure this extends all the way to the end. And while we're at it, I'm going to do these ones as well. Okay, and we know those won't drop out. Some other ones will drop out, but I don't know much about them at the moment, so I'll fix those when they become a problem. Check the whiteboard. Yes, I did. So she's asking about the. He's asking about the whiteboard. She says, yes, I did. But we don't actually talk about the whiteboard. The only thing left are the pens. And so sometimes the pens don't have enough ink left in them that you can't get a chance to check them. Not yet, but I'll make sure to do that later today. So that means that the pens are one of the things she has to check after the meeting. So we did make sure that that one is a correct one. So let's find this line. Sometimes the pens don't have enough ink left in them. That's the beginning of L. Okay, I'm just going to open up the waveform so I can see. So, you know, just if it helps, you can pretend like it's English. So sometimes the pens don't have enough ink left in them. So just start around here. That's where I want to bring this up. The pens. Here are the pens. Sometimes the pens don't have enough ink left in them. We can bring that up right here. And she says, not yet, but I'll make sure to do that later today. That's when we have confirmed, okay, like that is one of the things. The issue of the pens is at rest. Not yet, but I'll be sure to do that later today. So, you know, about here, we will bring that down. And around this point, we should be having the check mark come in. Saying like, okay, that's it. I see a lot of things dropping out about here, so let's fix those. We've got, there's this pens. These pens go away. What are these pens? Oh, actually, yeah. That should, because, I don't know, for whatever reason this was made, where the transition, this animation here, it must have been a layer order thing. This layer just drops out, and then this layer replaces it from the same position. So we're seeing two different things. So this should actually be gone as this starts. And part of this project is kind of reverse engineering what the template maker did and figuring out, you know, what needs to be done to make it look the way the template looked. So all these guys, all these layers right here, I'm going to have them end at the end. Okay, I've held down Alt, right brackets do that, so I don't change the in points. It's just the out points. All right, and then I think the last thing to pay attention to is the check mark. So, all right, I want that to come in when the pens are at rest, just so it's not, so like it's kind of, everything's in place. We're back to the way that the picture looked like when they were first shown to people, and now we know this is right. Okay. And then we've already done that transition point, so that should be done. The last step in After Effects is just, this is not an English class lesson, this is a Vietnamese pod lesson, so we're going to go just search for a bug. You see English, Vietnamese. Here's a little trick. So if you hold Alt option and then drag Vietnamese bug over English bug, you're going to replace its usage across the whole project. Okay, here I go, bam, and now Vietnamese pod is there. Okay. I lied, one more thing. Intro. This is something that people forget about a lot, and it's easy to forget. So we have this intro, and this should match the lesson name. So, not name, but the number, you know. So the way we do that is we go into controls, and then the effect controls here. Difficulty level is, you scroll this up, it kind of changes. Advanced is the top, it needs to be 4. Language color, that's fine. Nothing else has to change, but we will have to change these numbers. So we're working on number 5, which means it's Unit 1, Lesson 5. If you were working on something that said number 7, then you kind of have to do some math, figure out, okay, 7, that's in the second unit. The first one in the second unit would be 6, so this is Unit 2, Lesson 2. Okay, that's the kind of thing this does. So Unit 1, Lesson 5. At this point, you save your project, and I'm just going to shrink this down so we can see Premiere and After Effects at the same time. We're going to want to drag these compositions into this folder for 5. Okay, those come over. Now we will want to open them all up. First we have the intro. It's going to load this up. Okay, we're going to drag just the video over. Okay, so that goes until the end of this clip like that. Next is the main lesson. Drag just the video over. Start there. Okay, notice how this kind of transitions in nicely. That covers that. And this, if we trimmed it right, this should take us all the way up to the beginning of the outro. Bring this in, just drag video. All right. Here you see it's a little bit too long. So let's just trim this to match the outro audio. And you're done. Okay, just to recap, I skipped some parts because this is a pretty time-consuming process, and what I didn't do are adjust the final dialogue parts. So make sure that you do that. You should not have any of these long ones. They should all be fitting on the same screen. So make sure you do that properly. But if you have, then you're all done. Okay? So, complicated. If this is your first foray into advanced After Effects stuff, it's going to be a little crazy, but at least the hard work has been done for you. The animations have been done for you, which is nice. So you're just really reverse engineering it, changing the timing, making sure you don't break anything. And it's a good, interesting way to kind of figure out how the animations were done because you're spending time with it at a very low level. Okay. Once you're done, you go to your timesheet, you hit finished, and move on with your day. Thank you for watching.